The Puck Portfolio with Andy McNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. It is Tuesday, March 25th. I'm your host, Andy McNeil, and joining me, as always, is DFO's Nick Martin. Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Yeah, fully settled in the new place. I was able to golf yesterday for the first time this year. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, I put the patio furniture out yesterday, and then I looked at the forecast, and it looks like we're going to get snow on Thursday. So, yeah, a little premature on that. I don't know. I think I'll wait. To hit the golf course, at least until it's still pretty windy out here in Edmonton right now. But no, I don't want to blow away. So, big slate today in the NHL. It was an interesting night on Monday. There was only 4 games in the NHL, but the Canucks got a big shootout win over the New Jersey Devils. The Devils just continuing to slide, and I thought pretty surprising comeback from the Columbus Blue Jackets, winning 4-3 in a shootout against the New York Islanders. What do you think of that disallowed goal, goaltender interference on the part of the Islanders in that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think based off how they've called it this year, I was more on the side, like I had Columbus and I was kind of actually expecting it to hold up as not counting. But I think from a more general perspective, I don't like that is a disallowed goal. He was never saving it. And I think the contact was so minimal. So yeah, I definitely respect, Isles fans being pissed about that. And I think it seems like most people, I think, would agree that they'd probably like that goal to stand. But yeah, I didn't think it was necessarily the worst call considering the way they have called those this year.
But as you said, you were very biased to the decision on that one. So
yeah,
take your opinion with a grain of salt, is what you're saying.
No, I think I'm pretty reasonable. Like I would definitely like that goal to be a goal. But there's been a lot this year where it's like almost the same thing where the contact's so minimal, the goalie never would have saved it. Like whatever it is, it's a tip in or goalie's out of position one time or goes in that he wouldn't have gotten to. Yeah. They have really kind of called that for that soft contact that's like borderline initiated by the goalie. So I don't like it, but I kind of think it is the way they've been doing it.
Yeah, not surprising, like you said, but I'm not a big fan of that being the standard. That's for sure. And the Detroit Red Wings getting a big 5-1 win over the Utah Hockey Club. Utah just can't put it together. Not looking good for the Utah Hockey Club now at this point in the season. We are where are we at now? They are 6 points back of the St. Louis Blues for the second wild card spot. Yeah, they're dead.
I think they're dead, but our take was to get one of those two, and the Blues look to be the best out of that group by a lot. So,
yeah, for sure. I've talked to a few people that have put some pizza money on St. Louis to win the Western Conference going into this one. It was, a week ago or so, it was at 200 to 1. I think it's obviously come down now that they're in a playoff spot, but I don't think that's the worst take out there.
Yeah,
they have obviously a tough road, but they've been playing some great hockey. The underlying metrics look great over the last couple of months, and I don't think the Blues are no joke. And as frustrating as it was to watch Jordan Binnington in the Four Nations face-off while cheering for Canada, he comes up in the big games, and he's a Stanley Cup winning goaltender. So maybe there's something there. Maybe they can recreate a little bit of the magic that they had in 2019. People were debating whether this team should sell off heading into the trade deadline, and I thought that was the wrong approach. I mean, whether they were going to make the playoffs or not, I think they've got enough here. Obviously, you'd like to see that blue line get rebuilt going into the future, but as far as the forwards go and whatnot, I think they've got some pretty good core pieces, and obviously Dylan Holloway has been a great surprise and a breakout player. So I think and Broberg as well. Broberg's been excellent as well. So I think St. Louis is definitely not that far away from kind of turning things around and getting back into being a contender in the future.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, like you said, I think the decor is actually not even that far away now that Broberg's been this good if he can keep it up. Honestly, I would have probably said that they should sell off, especially what people were reporting they were getting for Shen. But yeah, anyways, no need to dwell on that too long.
So yeah, big slate today in the NHL. We have 10 games on the docket. First up, the Ottawa Senators and the Buffalo Sabres. Ottawa a minus 150 favor at Pinnacle. The Sabres a plus 136 home underdog. You've got a play you like in this one. A big game for the Senators, not so much for the Sabres, although they might continue to do their best to hurt their draft position as they've done in previous seasons. But you've got a play you like in this one, right?
Yeah, I'm with, I think, probably a lot of other people in thinking it's a good spot to back Dylan Cousins versus his former side. He's been really good for the Senators. He had been horrible for Buffalo all year. I didn't know. Like, I was much less in favor that this trade would for sure be a slam dunk than other people. But as we've seen, everyone who gets out of Buffalo tends to do pretty well. And it looks like Cousins might be in that mix. He's been really good playing on the second line alongside Batherson. He's also getting top power play minutes. He's got a single point in 7 of his 8 games with Ottawa and just looks like he's kind of refound his game here. So I think if you wanted to just bet him to get a point, that's at minus 105. I think that's a good option. If you can play at Bet365, they had Batherson and Cousins each to get a point at plus 250, which has been really good. They've correlated well and had great chemistry together. And then he's at plus 182 to get 3 shots, which I think is also worth a look. His shot volume's gone up a ton since he's gotten Ottawa. And I just feel like all those lines kind of haven't adjusted enough. And then, yeah, if you want to put a little stock into the idea that he should have a little extra jump in this game, I think that's fair too. But I don't think you're just reaching to play these numbers because of the revenge angle.
Yeah, the Senators, 79 points currently in the first wild card spot right now. They, along with the Montreal Canadiens, both have 69 games played, so they've got games in hand or a game in hand on everybody chasing them right now, all the way down to the Detroit Red Wings. But yeah, just I mean, the gap is closing between the Canadiens and the Senators here, just 4 points separating these two teams. So it could get pretty interesting down the stretch. In all likelihood, the Senators will hold on to that.
If they don't, it's a ridiculous
Go ahead.
choke. I was just going to say, if they don't now, it's an insane choke. This has to be the year.
Yeah, no, I think they'll make the playoffs. I mean, I'm not questioning whether or not they'll make the playoffs, but they've got to stay strong down the stretch, 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. So they've got to keep that up and at least keep pace with the Canadiens here, and obviously the Rangers and the Islanders not far behind. The Blue Jackets 2 points back of Montreal for the first wild card spot after getting that point in overtime last night. You didn't have anything in the Nashville Carolina game, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay. I've got to play in the Lightning and Penguins game, of course. The Lightning, big favorites here, minus 276 on the money line at Pinnacle. Pittsburgh coming back on the other side at plus 240. Not a lot to say about this one. I mean, the Penguins, they've been on the surface playing a little better as of late, 5-3-2 over their last 10 games. But still, way down in the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings, out of the playoff race. They've got the worst goal differential in the Eastern Conference this year, minus 48. And you're looking at the underlying metrics. They're still allowing a lot of shots on a per 60-minute basis, despite their I guess improved record. Obviously, Tristan Jarry has come back up from the minors and played pretty well in a short stint here, and that's helped. But that hasn't, obviously doesn't factor into the shots allowed right now. Only the Ducks, and it's very close over the last month since the NHL returned from the Four Nations face-off. Anaheim ranks 32nd in the NHL with 31.66 shots against per 60. Pittsburgh is 31st with 31.59 shots against per 60 minutes. And I'm looking at Brandon Hagel here over 2.5 shots at -110. You can get that at Bet365. It's considerably higher at Pinnacle. I believe it was up around the -130 range at Pinnacle. So anytime you can get a better price than what Pinnacle is offering, I think you gotta consider that. And Kucherov, he leads the way with 46 shots on goal over the last month. Jake Gensel next with 44, but Brandon Hagel's right there tied with Gensel with 44 shots on goal. Has been kind of hit or miss. Hasn't been consistently going over his shots total, but when he does, he usually does it in pretty good fashion. I think he had 6 shots in his last game. He's on the second line, skating alongside Anthony Cirelli there. And, I do worry maybe that they'll be matched up against the Crosby line tonight. So that's something to consider. Obviously, Cirelli does spend a lot of time playing against the other team's best players. But Hagel, he's just been, he's been playing really good over the last 4 weeks, and maybe carrying a little bit of that mojo from the Four Nations face-off. So I think this is a pretty good price against a team that has been allowing almost 32 shots on a per 60-minute basis.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not the worst if they go ahead. Like, it'd be a lot of D-zone starts, but the Crosby line is not that good defensively. I feel like if there's anyone else, people would probably talk about that a little more. We've talked about it a little bit, and I think he's kind of locked it down to some extent, but I don't think he's the level of defensive forward that he was when he's at his absolute prime anymore.
No, but I mean, he's still, when he's on the ice, he's still generating a lot of shots, and I think that's kind of where it plays into it for me. But I mean, I backed Crosby on Friday in the lone game to get over, go over on his shots prop, and he did that, and he's done it quite consistently over the last little bit here.
I think he's first this month in points.
I think today. I think he's first in the NHL this season in 5-on-5 points. Is he not?
I can believe that. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely right up there in all of those. And the Pens, to have a little side on them, you talk about how they've kind of been playing a little better. I think they have. I got sucked into betting them at a huge number versus Florida on the weekend. And they blew it. And that moves me to 19-46 on the season in 3-on-3 and shootout. So
ouch.
Yeah, that has tailed that whole thing. It's been horrible. I'm just begging.
That is pretty unfortunate. You covered the Philadelphia Flyers and Toronto Maple Leafs over at the Leafs Nation today. How do you look at this one from a betting perspective?
Yeah, I didn't really see too much value from a side. I think it's been well covered how much the Leafs have kind of fallen off here. It's gotten pretty bad. You look at the month, they're basically the only so-called cup contender with below average metrics across the board. Everyone else is kind of, their game seems to be trending upwards at the right time, and the Leafs kind of seem to be going through it a little bit. So I don't really think there's much value laying it with a side here. Philly, their goaltending has just been so bad. And I think their level's fallen off a little bit too. You look at the underlying numbers, they're still not nearly as bad defensively as you'd expect looking at their goals against results, but they've definitely tailed off compared to earlier in the year where it really seemed like it was just the goaltending holding them back. So I don't really have too much interest in a side, but I do think it's a good spot to go with Matthews to score, which is at even money on Pinnacle. He's got 6 goals in his last 11 games. And if you look at the chance creation numbers, he's averaging close to 0.8 expected goals per game in that span. So he's been pouring chances on goal. He's obviously one of the game's best finishers. And I do think the best combination is when he's playing with Nyes and Marner. The power plays also looked really good. So I think he should continue to kind of score at this rate if he gets this many chances. And Philly's goaltending has been horrible, and they look like they've taken some steps backwards defensively. So all in all, I think it's a pretty good spot to just ride with Matthews while he's hot.
Yeah, for sure. The Montreal Canadiens and the St. Louis Blues, don't have a lot to say on this one, but I definitely, have been considering betting the regulation draw here. As good as the Blues have been, the Canadians have been finding a way to stick around a lot lately in games, and their offense has obviously been really hot as of late. But they have gone to OT or a shootout in 6 of their last 11 games, including 3 of the last 5 games. So, they found a way to stick around against some pretty good teams. Obviously, the Oilers, not the Islanders. I shouldn't lump them in with it as a pretty good team, but the Avalanche even coming back to force overtime in that one in their last time out, and they have had a couple of days off here heading into this game. So that's something I'm considering. Not sure I'm going to lock it in right now, but they're kicking off a 4-game road trip today. That's going to see them play the Blues, Flyers, Hurricanes, and Panthers before heading home for 3 games against the Panthers, Bruins, and the Flyers.
Yeah, I like that call. We kind of talked about it last week, and I was saying how maybe at the time it was just kind of in my head. But I do feel like a lot of these games where 2 teams are kind of fighting for a wild card spot, we really have seen just close score lines throughout. In the last couple nights, that's been the case. The Blue Jackets Isles game tied, obviously. Canucks Devils. I articled the Flames Isles game to be a tie on Saturday. And it does kind of feel like these spots are more predictable in terms of both teams really being up for it and seeing close score lines throughout. So, yeah, I definitely think this could be a decent look at the tie as well.
Yeah, plus 331 currently at Pinnacle. You know what? I am going to lock that in. Half unit play on this one because not quite there. The conviction level isn't quite there, but I'll put a half unit on Montreal and St. Louis to go to OT or a shootout at, like I said, plus 331. That's quite a bit better than what you're seeing in most games, even ones that are pretty closely priced. I mean, the Blues are, relatively big favorite at minus 148 on the money line. The Canadians on the other side at plus 134. But next up, we've both got plays in this game. The Washington Capitals and the Winnipeg Jets. The battle of the President's Trophy favorites here. Of course, the 2 top teams in the NHL. Right now, Washington, they've won 9 of their last 10, looking for their 5th straight win here on Tuesday. They hold a 2-point lead over the Jets in the President's Trophy race, and they've got a game in hand, so this is a big one for the Caps and the Jets as far as finishing first in the NHL. But you look at the Caps schedule. They've got a more favorable schedule than Winnipeg here down the stretch. Excuse me. So yeah, Sports Interaction currently has them as a minus 400 favorite to finish first overall, while the Jets sitting at plus 275. But yeah, neither team really getting the same respect when it comes to winning their respective conferences in the playoffs. They're still up there among the top teams, but both sitting at 6-1 right now as we head or inch closer to the postseason. And the Caps, they played pretty good during this run here. Over the last 10 games, they've controlled 52.3% of the expected goals and shot attempts at 5-on-5. That ranks 13th and 8th respectively. But yeah, the offense has just been great. No team has scored more goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 or overall over the last 10 games. And they also rank among the top 10 in both shots for and against over this stretch. They rank 7th in expected goals per 60, but just 20th in expected goals against at 5-on-5 over these last 10 games. So, that's a little bit concerning heading into this one, but the goaltending has remained on point here. Charlie Lindgren and Logan Thompson have combined to save approximately 8 goals above expected over the last 10 games. And as a result, the Capitals have allowed fewer goals than all but 7 teams over their last 10 games. And they've outscored Winnipeg offensively by nearly a full goal per 60 over this stretch. So their offense has looked a lot better. It's being driven right now by, for the most part, 4 players. Tom Wilson's been really good over this stretch. 5 goals, 9 assists, 14 points in 10 games. Protas, 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points in 10 games. Former Jets forward Pierre-Luc Dubois, 4 goals, 8 assists, 12 points in his last 10 games. But Alex Ovechkin's still there as well. 4 goals, 7 assists, 11 points in his last 10 games. He is just 7 goals away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time record. Winnipeg, I mean, they've looked a little bit more human as of late, playing 500 hockey since the end of February, 6-6 straight up. They've dropped 2 of their last 3, including a 5-3 loss to the Buffalo Sabres to open this 4-game homestand. The Capitals are also going to have a one-day rest advantage here, having last played on Saturday, while Winnipeg played on Sunday. But Jets goaltender Connor Hellebuck hasn't suited up since Thursday, so that gives him 3 days off. So that pretty much evens things out for that one. I mean, Hellebuck, he's looked human over his last couple of starts as well. 8 goals against in the last couple, but he's hasn't really had 3 bad games in a row this season, so I wouldn't expect that to continue too long here. But this Capitals team is going to be a pretty big test for him, given that their offense has been clicking like it has been. And I like the Caps, and you do as well. At I'm not sure what the current price is, but it was plus 128, now plus 133. So moving against us. Does look like Jacob Chychrun is going to suit up tonight. He was questionable earlier this morning due to a hand injury, I guess, from signing that big 8-year extension with the Caps. But looks like he's going to suit up. Not sure if we had a goaltending confirmation on either side here yet, but I'm guessing that might have something to do with the line movement here. Logan Thompson confirmed, so that's good for us. Connor Hellebuck likely. I'm very okay taking the Caps here at plus 133.
Yeah, I think it's a great number. Honestly, I don't care about the Caps goalies right now. Lindgren's been dialed. Like I really kind of talked about earlier, and the team actually, I feel like, kind of was a little bit on how he just happened to get in the worst starts, and he's been so good lately. So I'm not too concerned there. And whether Chychrun starts or not, I think the Jets still have the worst, or whether he plays or not, I think the Jets still have the worst of it from an injury situation, because Velarde's been huge for them. Neil Pionk's also been a really good puck mover back there. So I think either way, they probably are playing without 2 key pieces compared to just Chychrun from the Caps. And I'm not really quite seeing this number. We've talked a lot about how the Caps are probably not nearly as good as their record. I think you look at the playoff odds, I think it'd be pretty reasonable to say most teams like Ottawa would probably be happy to be in that second wild card if it meant playing the Caps compared to the Panthers. But I still, like, even from that perspective, I'm not seeing how this game's not priced a little bit closer to a pick 'em. I do think the Caps do some things really well offensively that have allowed them to outscore expectations by this kind of a margin. And I think there's some good things going on with the team right now. Connor McMichael's really found his game recently. He's looked a lot better. And the Beauvillier pickup has really helped. He's been unreal for them so far in a small sample. So, I think just following both these teams pretty carefully, it's kind of hard for me to see how this number's gotten this long. So, I definitely think it's worth a look here.
Yeah, I'm also on over 5.5 here. I mean, like I said, the Jets offense hasn't been as good over the last month. It's been, below average, but I mean, they were, up until the Four Nations face-off, the best offensive team in the league. And as you say, injuries might, hamper that a little bit, but this Caps team is great offensively as well. That, right now they are 1-2, or before the Four Nations face-off, that they were 1-3 in goals per 60 minutes, and Washington has really picked up the pace here over the last month. So I think I'm expecting to see a higher scoreline in this one. Maybe not as high as the last time these two teams met on February 1st. Winnipeg took that game in extra time, 5-4, but they given the current form of these teams, even though over the last week or so, I would not be surprised to see a much higher score line than the total indicates here. I think minus 115 is a reasonable price to go over 5.5.
Yeah, I like that. Two of the best offenses in the league. I still think the Caps have been pretty hit or miss defensively. So
yeah,
I think
I think both teams are
5.5
going to kind of struggle to keep each other's offense at bay here. So
yeah, I sure hope Obi scores too, because it's going to be a little tight, and it's going to be I feel like a really dull finish if he gets to like 1 or 2 left, and then you just wait the entire summer to have him pour in a goal or two next year. But anyways.
yeah, absolutely. And the Vegas Golden Knights in Minnesota taking on the Wild. Of course, the Wild played yesterday. So big rest advantage here for the Golden Knights. And it looks like Shea Theodore is going to be a game time decision in Minnesota on Tuesday. So that's a big boost for Vegas. I'm going with another shot prop in this one. It is Pavel Dorofeev over 2.5 shots on goal. Just got to check the price here where we're at on this one.
Yeah, I've kind of been keeping my eye out too. I'll just fill in while you do that. For who's going to go into Hurdle's role on the top power play and second line, because I could see there being some value there. I think Will Carlson is probably the most likely candidate, but I've kind of been trying to watch for confirmation on that and try to jump some numbers as well, because I think obviously it's a pretty solid spot for the Knights to keep their offensive play going.
Yeah, Dorofeev has gone over 2.5 shots in 9 of his last 14 games. Leads the team in shots on goal over the last month. So I think this is a great look at minus 110. But yeah, shop around. I think you can maybe even find even money on this one at a couple of books.
Yeah, I like that look a lot. And he is just a pure shooter. It does feel like they've not accounted for this well enough. And I think, that Hurdle line had played really well, but I think you can live with it if it's going to be Carlson there. And then he gets so many looks just as the primary one-time option on the power play. So I think good price there for sure.
And as you mentioned, big win for the Red Wings last night against the Utah Hockey Club. Maybe a letdown spot here against the Colorado Avalanche. And you have a play that you like in this one?
Yeah, I like the Avs here. I think the puck line looks like it's moving a little, but at minus 115, I thought it was worth the play. I think this is just a really tough spot. Okay, still minus 114 on Penny, so that's good there. And I think this is just a really tough spot for the Wings. They are really good at scoring goals against the run of play. I think that was kind of your prototypical Red Wings win from the last 2 seasons last night versus Utah, finding a way to score. What was it? They finished with 4 on 14 shots. But I don't think we'll see that same kind of storyline go on tonight. I think their defensive flaws should shine through versus the Avs in this spot with the rest advantage. And I haven't seen Detroit's goaltending situation. I don't know if they'll just go
looks
back.
Like Cam Talbot likely.
Yeah, because Mrazek got injured right at the start of the game last night, so that's not ideal for them either. And I think, this is just a tough spot traveling to altitude to play an Avs offense that looks really good. Obviously, the Avs are heavily favored here, but I still think that this puck line should actually be even larger or worse number than it is. So I think anything involving the Avs here offensively is a decent bet, and I like them to cover the puck line.
Yeah, I can't argue with you there. That pretty much does it for today's episode of the Puck Portfolio. I think we got through all the games that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I think we did. I'm just finishing up my Flames one now, and then I think there was a side that I looked at yesterday that I thought was good that we can finish with here. I'm just trying to pull it up, or a side for tomorrow, I should say. Oh, it's moving a little. I thought the Stars, they were opening at minus 145 tomorrow versus the Oilers. I'm not that high on the Stars, but I just think this could be the game where the Noah McDavid and Draisaitl really shines through. I think that should be an even bigger number. The Oilers did pretty good versus the Kraken on Saturday, I'd say, to get by without those guys, but I still think eventually they're you just look at how much those two mean to them. I don't think they can hang in with Dallas without them.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for the Edmonton Oilers on Thursday. Just 4 games in the NHL on Thursday, but we'll be back to cover them all on tomorrow's episode of the Puck Portfolio, and we'll be back with another episode of Future Files right here on the DFO Fantasy and Betting YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us today, but until tomorrow, good luck with your bets and gamble responsibly.